Up, we have Mr. Richard Grabow. Is he here? No?
See him this morning.
Okay. Gene Lacrosse, are you here, Gene? There he is. Up after Mr. Lacrosse will be Mr. Rack.
I saw him try to trip you. You got to watch that guy.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nice to see you again. Gene Lacrosse, 3951 Northeast 22nd Avenue. This is out of the ordinary. This is, Mr. Elzelman told us when he's at our tea party that we're a corporation, and I'm still waiting, and the people are the creditors. I'm waiting for my first check.
So what I said was the structure of our organization. If you were forcing me to answer the question, and I said that if we run the county in relation to a business, you can say that you as individuals can be the voters, can be the shareholders of the government.
Well, I was just picking on you, that's all. You don't have to apologize. Anyways, this is been related to this. Last March, the IMF, Governmental Services Corporation, doing business in the United States Incorporated, went insolvent. It was entered into Chapter 11 bankruptcy without naming a successor to the contract. They left the federal side of the Constitution vacant, flapping in the breeze. This article is from Judge Anna Von Reitz. The intentions of the perpetrators was obvious. They meant to avoid the Constitution once and for all. What do they do? We already delivered the process of the IMF, the United States, and its franchises resulted in proper judgment of commercial and administrative default. We had already entered a properly conducted claim of commerce to claim back all the assets naturally belonging to the American people. We found that the alliance with the Lakota and the Appalachia nations are two of the largest American nations, Native American, which are federal and which have internationally recorded tribunal governments. We filed sovereign letters, patent, and the Declaration of Sovereignty. The Constitution was saved and a new foundation begun. The Native Americans are now free to come back to the land and were removed from where they were moved from, no longer POWs. They regained their sovereignty as free, sovereign, and independent people on the land. The United States of America and the free, sovereign, independent people living on the land of the organic states have regained their sovereignty in the international jurisdiction of the sea. For this time, 1789, Americans are in full control of their natural land and the sea jurisdiction. We finally are whole again. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Lacrosse.
Thank you.
It's good to see you again, sir. Mr. Ron Rack. Up next after him is Ernest Valerio.
Morning, Ron Rack, 10580 Southeast 131st Place, Ocklawaha. Commissioners, you have already agreed that rights are inherent, and those rights include life, liberty, property, and to defend those objects. Question is to whom do we defend them from? Who do I have the right to defend those objects from? Isn't it anyone who attempts to intrude on those rights, and it doesn't matter whether it is another citizen or the government, and any form of government, as a matter of fact. The second question that comes along with that is utilizing what manner? You know, I look at our situation today, and after last week's little debate, it caused me to do a ton of reading in 2 weeks. And the one thing I realized is that there are no patriots today, not compared to the men that founded this nation. Thomas Jefferson, his remedy for an out-of-control government was not the court system. And as a matter of fact, he said that the remedy was to tumultuously race to arms. That was his remedy. Was he wrong? Was he wrong? Is that the wrong way to deal with a government who consistently infringes on the rights of the people? Commissioner Bryan asked me to send you guys a letter giving examples of those violations, which I did the very same day that we had that meeting. I wrote you a 5-page letter, and it was extremely detailed. And what have I heard from you? Nothing. I recommend you look up the term acquiescence, because I also sent you a letter a long time ago, as well as the tax collector concerning property taxes and your authority to collect those taxes. And you know what I've heard from you? Nothing. Again, acquiescence. We went over this, that the Supreme Court ruled that silence is consent. But I want to read something here that Alexander Hamilton wrote, and this is Federalist Paper 33. And let's see what he had to say about taxes. Though a law, therefore, laying a tax for the use of the United States would be supreme in its nature and could not legally be opposed or controlled, yet a law for abrogating or preventing the collection of a tax laid by the authority of the state, unless upon imports and exports, would not be the supreme law of the land, but a usurpation of power not granted by the Constitution. Is he wrong? He's one of the writers. Is he wrong? But he says more than that. He says, as far as an improper accumulation of taxes on the same object might tend to render the collection difficult or precarious, this would be mutual inconvenience, not arising from a superiority or defect of power on either side, but from an injudicious exercise of power by one or the other in a manner equally disadvantageous to both. It is to be hoped and presumed, however, that mutual interest would dictate a concert in this respect, which would avoid any material inconvenience. The inference from the whole is that the individual states would, under the proposed Constitution, retain an independent and uncontrollable authority to raise revenue to any extent which they may stand in need by every kind of taxation except duties on imports and exports. And that's what we're facing today. Anytime they need more money, they go to the people instead of where they should be going, which we've. And Mr. Zalek, when I brought this up in September, you even agreed that the real way of taxing, when you mentioned Marco Rubio wanted to do away with property tax, you even agreed that the real way of taxing is not property tax, and it's unconstitutional. And I
did not agree that it was unconstitutional.
Oh, yes, you did.
I agree that sales tax is by far the more equitable way.
And I said it is constitutional, and you said it is constitutional. Those were your words. Those were your words, and I have that video still.
Well, that's awesome.
Yep. So with that, I'll bid you good day.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Rack, you made a statement that you had heard no reply from the email that you had sent us, when in fact, I think that I was actually the one that forwarded your email over to Mr. Minter for reply, and you got a reply to your email on the 10th of February, in which you replied back to Mr. Minter on the 11th of February. So I will say, for me, that was my reply. Because of several of the things that you cited and brought up, Mr. Minter was the better person to answer that stuff.
But Mr. Minter is not the elected official here. You are.
You're asking
represents the
about
elected
case law,
officials.
and he represents us when it comes to asking about case law.
But he is
and
not.
different
He is
things.
not the one who swore an
Law.
oath to protect and defend the Constitution. You are.
Thank you, Mr. Rack.
You still got your answer.
No, I did not. Not from you.
Yeah, you did.
All right, Ernest Valero. Mr. Ernest Valero here. All right, not seeing Mr. Valero. Mr. Hagan Smith. Is he here? All right, he's here today. Good morning, Mr. Smith.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's been a while since I've been here. Been traveling around the state doing investigative work on what's going on in each of the counties.
That's great.
It's amazing what we are finding out about the lawlessness in all 67 counties, Marion County notwithstanding. I am Hagan Smith, Investigative Administrator for the Florida Common Law Statewide Grand Jury.
Your address, please, for the clerk.
I don't have an address as an investigator. I'm acting on behalf of the grand jury, the common law grand jury this morning.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
don't-
acting on my own private
I don't
behalf.
care who you're acting on, you still need an address.
Well, I will
You've given an address before, sir, just give us.
I will give you an address that you can send communication to.
Thanks.
4420B, Southwest 80th Avenue, Ocala, Florida, 34481.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Having said that, on the grand jury met, or the People's Assembly in Marion County met on February 16, 2017, examined evidence of the unlawful acts by the Marion County Commissioners, and having submitted the evidence to the statewide Florida People's Common Law Grand Jury, the grand jury instructed me to present to you this morning a redress of grievance, a press release for what took place on December 6, 2016 in this county commissioners meeting. We have evidence and record of everything that I'm about to say. So it is my duty then to issue, on behalf of the Florida Statewide Common Law Grand Jury, this presentment in nature of quo warranto. Notice to you each. Marion County, Florida Commissioners Jeff Gold, Michelle Stone, Carl Zalek, Kathy Bryant, David Moore, and County Attorney Matthew Guy Mentor. On December 6, 2016, you passed an unlawful ordinance, 16-43, which you called law, in direct violation of the Florida Constitution from 1968, located at Article 1, Section 10, which states as follows: prohibited laws. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law or law impairing an obligation of contract shall be passed. Jeff Gold, Michelle Stone, and David Moore, you were sworn in on December 6, 2016 in violation of the Florida Constitution at Article 2, Section 5B, without having provided a bond before entering on the duties of that respective office. Therefore, you are impersonating a public servant in direct violation of the Florida statute, Title 46, and is a felony 3. You further made the ordinance retroactive to December 6, 2016, in violation of both constitutions, U.S. and Florida. We have proof that the ordinance had not been written prior to December 6th and had not been promulgated for 30 days for the people's review. Florida Statute 843.0855 sets forth the felony third crime provision, punishable under 775.082, 083, and 084. Because the Florida Statewide Common Law Grand Jury Investigative Administrator Hagan Smith and Jean LaCrosse visited the County Attorney's Office on December 7th, 2016 to review a copy of the before-mentioned Ordinance 1643. The County Attorney, Matthew Guy Mentor, stated that he could not provide it to us because it was not written yet at that time. You had already presented the before-mentioned Ordinance 1643 on December 6, 2016, without the people in Marion County, Florida, having the opportunity to review it. It is clear, the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3, and Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1. No state shall pass any ex post facto law or law impairing the obligation of contracts or grant any title of nobility. Your making that ordinance retroactive is further proof of your violation of these documents with the intent to subvert the constitutions. It is clear to we the people that you have attempted to obviate your lawful requirement and have ignored the law. It is clear to we the people that you have no authority to create such an ordinance, nor did you have a quorum to make official actions. Therefore, all acts by this Marion County, Florida Board of County Commissioners are null and void since December 6, 2016. The Marion County, Florida Attorney Matthew Guy Minter has reason to know that this is an ex post facto law and yet participated in this unlawful act, notwithstanding the rule of law. Respectfully submitted with all rights reserved by the people of Marion County, Florida, acting under the Fifth Amendment of the grand jury process on the 20th day of February 2017. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Would you give
Okay.
these to Mr. Elswin, please?
Mr. Chair, I just would like to say that the three of us that were named were actually sworn in November the 15th, 2016.
Well, that may be. I don't think I was here. I may have that date wrong. I apologize. I will correct the record if that's so. I will look at it.
That is true.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Let's see who else we had here. Oh, sorry. Up next is Miss Kathy Davis. Miss Kathy Davis, are you here? All right, don't see her. Farrelly. Farrelli is. How do you say the first name?
Dominic Farrelly.
Dominic. Sorry. No? Okay. Commissioners, I'm sorry, anyone else in the excuse me, anyone else in the public like to speak? Mr. Necto?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Mr. Nectel.
Roger Nectel, 12727 Southeast 97 Terrace Road in beautiful Summerfield. I want to make my opinion on a couple of articles on the weekend. Number one is littering. There's a lot of attempt to clean up after the litter is spread all over. I think we have to take a more proactive, and actually, if you can prevent littering, you don't have to clean up littering. And I don't have the answer to it, except that in certain counties in different parts of the world, Delaware County in New York, you're subject to being put in jail overnight. I don't know if they enforce that. Evans County in Georgia, which is just west of the famous golf course there, Augusta. They have a clean streets somehow. Hempstead in Long Island for years had rules where you could be subject to go to jail. I'm not saying that's the answer, but you guys, everybody has to come up with an idea to prevent people from littering. I don't know if it means the officer putting that person's name in the register just as a litterer. People hate to be listed in anything. Smaller towns are able to list all the people that do infractions on a list of so-called police blotter list, but something should be done on the positive side. White privilege, that was another big article there. And I had a whole list of things, almost every college, armed forces, sports, everything, there are less than 50% whites, but that's not the answer. The answer is that we all have to pray and forgive each other. The day that we forgive, whites forgive, or say, please forgive me for what we've done in the past, and the blacks and others say, I forgive you, this world will be a great world. Okay. Last but not least, I listen to, especially every Thursday, Bob Ross, and there's times when Carl is there, giving us a lot of information. In fact, I get more information on Thursday mornings at 8 o'clock than I do here sometimes.
Stay tuned, I'll be there this Thursday.
Okay. Bob asked Carl at the last Thursday meeting, now that things are booming, I'm hoping that we don't have to see a mini Orlando, because that's not what we or I want to see, is what he said. Carl, you have a beautiful house, big land, off a lake. That's everybody's dream, is what Ross said, you know. And your answer was, don't worry, there's no problem. We have mechanisms to stop that. And you mentioned the zoning board and things like that.
No, we talked about some of the things like our We do have the farmland preservation piece in there. We've got obviously different categories. People talk all the time about some of the bigger farms.
Yeah.
You know,
Orlando had the same thing.
yeah. Well, a lot of the farms
Take a look at it now.
Are in our urban growth boundary, and so as we look at strategies,
Yeah.
I think the board has done a good job. We talk about the Southwest corridor, or kind of where you used to live over there between 484 and 200, the Triangle, and I mean it's almost its own little city, quite frankly. And so those are good infill projects where you've got people, you've got resources, you've got good roads, you've got good utilities. I'll let you speak. And
I'm listening.
and so, but then we also have areas that where our farmland is magnificent. And so I think keeping that balance is something that the Board of County Commissioners is always going to have to keep its eye on.
I know it's an impossible job, but please give it your best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Henry Munoz, 495 Marion Oaks Boulevard. I have a question about 11A. You guys are planning to do a workshop on a moratorium on small cells and micro tower placements,
Yes, sir.
and I really want to know why. It's the one, I know where I live, we could use this because we can't, we don't, there's a lot of spotty areas.
Yeah. So the point is that a lot of these third-party micro tower companies are trying to say that they're utility, like
Right.
they are a Verizon wireless, or like a Duke that runs property lines.
Right.
If that's the case, then under state law, the easement rules are different than if they are legitimately a third party, which is
Right.
what we believe they are, a third party.
Third party.
That gives us the right not to allow them to put a micro tower anywhere, but they have to have the right site, the right design. There may be other properties besides putting these things in the right of way.
Right.
That could be a piece of another piece of county land or a park or something of adjacentness. Could be a better location. And so the Board of County Commissioners wants the right to have those rules in place. And that's what we're fighting for. We're fighting for the right to have the rules in place so that we can dictate what happens in the right of way. Because a couple of years ago, the bigger utility companies, so Duke Energy and all of those folks, were trying to say that, well, if you're going to expand your road, yeah, that's great. So because we have our utility in the right of way, you, county, and taxpayers are going to have to pay for the relocation of our lines.
Right.
Well, that's ridiculous. We're allowing you to use our utility, our right-of-way, the public right-of-way, to move your commodity. Why on earth would we be responsible to have to relocate those lines? So we're fighting for the same. We're fighting for control over the right-of-ways the people have, and also the look and some of these things that we've seen in pictures Commissioner Bryant can attest to are quite. I mean, they just don't belong in certain places.
It's
Commissioner
also a
Bryant.
priority of the Florida Association of Counties. As it stands right now, most of these companies operate, they'll go out, you have a company that goes out, they get somebody to sign a lease, and then they go back to the provider, and they actually, build the larger towers that you see all over. In a way, this is kind of the companies maybe trying to circumvent that a little bit, and then also take away some of our rights. And then we get no say-so in where a lot of these things pop up. And I have a pretty good feeling the public would not be happy about that.
Okay. Will this be open to public comment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No,
And
it's a
will we
workshop.
get a
Oh, it's a
report back?
workshop.
It's a workshop, so no, it won't be open for public comment. Our folks are going to give us, our staff's going to give us a report, and then if we have a public hearing on it, it'll be open to public comment. But of course, if you have any opinions, you're more than welcome to send us information or to our staff.
Okay, thank you.
And if you'd like more information, Mr. Munoz, just send me an email, and I'll get you some more from the Florida Association of County staff, too, on what we're seeing statewide.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, was there anyone else in the public like to make a comment? All right, seeing none, we'll close that. Commissioners, we have one set of minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Moore, to move the January 17th minutes. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Constitutional officers, Mr. Albright has a newspaper advertisement, real and personal property delinquent tax pursuant to Florida statute 197.402.
I see he has someone here from his office.
Yes, awesome. Thanks for being here this morning with us.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Craig Silverman. I'm the Director of Tax Services for Mr. Albright.
Can you tell us, are you advertising in The Voice, or are you advertising in both The Voice and the Star Banner?
Well, actually, that's what we are trying to determine. And the reason is, per your agenda, there had been a change in the Florida rules last year. Prior to last year, it stated that the Board of County Commissioners on 197.402 shall select the newspaper. But the rules at that point in time, Rule 12D 13-036, which is crossed through at the bottom of, I believe, your page 2, said that if the board had not made the selection of the newspaper to advertise in by the first board meeting in February and notified our office, that we could proceed with selecting which newspaper would do the advertising.
Okay.
What we've done, because this has now been changed, the Florida legislature said when there is a Florida statute that is clear on intent, that there should be no rule to try and interpret a different way to do it. And basically, 197.402 states that the Board of County Commissioners shall select a newspaper as provided in Chapter 50. And I looked at the definition of shall, and it does not look like that is something that could be delegated to the tax collector.
Probably not.
Probably not. So what we have done is we have kind of reversed the process that we have been going through, and I spoke with our Director of IT Services, Shorty Barker, and it has been the old way where the tax collector has selected the newspaper since he has records all the way back to 1992. Okay? But with this rule change eliminating that option, we're requesting that you select a newspaper now. Normally, when that didn't happen, we would send bids to the various newspapers. Voice of South Marion and Ocala Star Banner are the two that meet the Chapter 50 requirements for length of service and distribution, readership.
So you only have
And-
to actually pick one of them then, right?
Yeah, just one of them. And it is,
Which one's cheaper?
right now, it looks like the Ocala Star Banner is the cheapest.
Okay.
In apparently both cases, both the real property and the delinquent tangible personal property.
Okay.
And what we did is normally we would get those, we would award the contract for advertising to the lowest bidder. What we've done is we've reversed that. We have taken the steps to get you the bids so that you would see what the various bids were and you could make that determination.
Okay.
Question,
Yes, Commissioner
just
Bryant.
for how we should have to do this. If we have to pick it, does this need to go out from our procurement department to get the bids? Or was this okay to do it this way?
I think it's okay the way they are proposing it, and you select the firm and they will contract with them directly and do the acquisition.
Yeah, because there's only two that meet the criteria in the county, right?
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
There's
the
only
question.
two papers in the county that
Yes, sir.
meet the criteria anyway, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The Voice of South Marion, I think, publishes once a week on Thursdays, and of course, the Ocala Star Banner is daily.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the Star Banner as it is the most
Effective.
cost-effective.
I have a motion by
Choice.
Commissioner Bryant to move forward with the Star Banner, second by Commissioner Gold.
I have a
Yes,
question.
question, sorry.
Is there also any availability through the statute to do any media advertisement as well? With that, and I'm talking social media, or at least putting a hot link?
Well, eventually, hopefully, the legislature will give us the ability just to advertise online on our websites, which would be significantly
And that was approached, that was part of this, the Florida Statutes 197 and was rewritten approximately 2 years ago. And basically, it caught up the old statutes for all the electronic media that's available, so we can conduct our tax certificate sale online electronically. And that kind of brought that into being and written it into statutes where we can actually also notify you with your permission email you electronically your tax notice. But we have to have your permission to do that.
So once you get these bids, are you able to negotiate even further, or no?
No,
No?
no.
All right. Have a motion and a second by Commissioner Gold. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate
Thank you.
it. The clerk, we have, Mr. Clerk, I have on my desk here item 5A5 to be withdrawn and
10.
5A10.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Any-
I'd like to present the rest of them for budget adoptions as listed on the agenda then, please.
Okay.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Bryant for the balance, second by Commissioner Moore, excluding 5A5 and 5A10. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. Again, if you're here for the public hearing, we're going to have a continuance until, when is that going to be?
March 7.
March 7th?
But we will have to open the public hearing
Okay.
and do that
All right.
at 10 o'clock.
All right, consent agenda. Commissioner Stone, you have anything to pull?
I do not.
No? Commissioner Moore?
I'm good.
Commissioner Gold?
No.
Commissioner Bryant?
I'm good.
Are y'all really gonna be that easy?